What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday Night Showdown lineup build video pre-lock show here on RotoGrinders. I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84, joined by Mr. Will Priester. Will, what's going on this evening, man?
Nothing much, man. I must say, my day started out a little rocky. I had tons of Zeke Elliott props in terms of over yardage, and I think he just got hurt. Like, I took him and Pollard over yardage. Pollard was around 32 and a half. Zeke was 65 and a half. And I said, man, Detroit's giving up so much on the ground. I'm just going to take them both. And Zeke didn't get there. Pollard blew through his number, but Zeke got hit early in the game on like a 20-yard run, just really got cracked in the knees, and he just didn't play as many snaps as I thought he was going to play. Kickers failed me this week overall, but mostly Justin. Everything else came through. Had a lot of Josh Jacobs, had a lot of uh, uh, Dameon Pierce, had a lot of Zach Wilson unders on pretty much everything. So it really turned out to be a big week. Caught a nice, 10x from Prize Picks on the afternoon slate because of all of that, because of Pierce, and took Corey Davis under 2.5 receptions. He's been very uninvolved. All that to say, Justin, outside of Zeke Elliott today, it's been a good day. So hopefully we can parlay that, see what we did there, into the night slate and help people make some money. So really excited to come on with you and talk some Showdown. I actually like this Showdown slate, so should be a fun one.
Well, you have to talk me into liking it. I don't love it, but hey, that's everybody's dealing with the same roster constraints. So we'll see if we can't find an edge in there. There have been some people noting that DraftKings is not working. I just got the site to load. I think the app might be working a little bit better. So if you're trying to get those lineups in on DraftKings, maybe try refreshing and or using the app if you are still stuck. So in any case, just wanted to pass that feedback along that the app and did work for a few folks. So. We've got an interesting game to close out the week. The Steelers on Sunday Night Football with their rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett going into Miami, and Miami gets their quarterback Tua Tagovailoa back this week. So that will be an interesting storyline. I'm sure they'll talk about his injury throughout the broadcast, but he is back. I believe Jalen Waddle is playing for Miami despite being listed as questionable. It seemed like there wasn't too much concern over his status throughout the week, so he should be good to go. Anything else you're keeping an eye on just generally with injuries or news for the game here?
No, not really. I think those are the main pieces. And to be honest with you, Justin, outside of DFS or props or sports betting, anything like that, I'm just hoping Tua can finish this game without getting hurt, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, he's had some scary hits here early this season. I'm talking about, the one of him on the ground when his fingers are locked up and stuff. Like, that one was rough. But even the one before that, when he was stumbling around on the field, like, that was a tough one too. So perhaps they try to keep him out of harm's way as much as possible. And, I know he loves the game, but man, I don't, if he takes another hit like that this year, there's no way he plays the rest of the season. I don't think.
Yeah, you can't. It'd be too much. I mean, for his own safety, one, and number two, all the backlash and discussion, and it's just not worth it for his own sake and the team and the future of the NFL and all that. So, not that we're trying to play medical doctors on the show or anything like that, but yes, hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully we have a good game tonight. But I mean, do you think Pittsburgh can keep this game competitive? I guess that's the big question. Like, everyone, maybe Pittsburgh's a little bit better with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. They beat Tampa Bay last week. Well, Tampa Bay just went out and lost to Carolina today, a team that has basically given up on the year, traded Christian McCaffrey during the week.
Don't even talk to me about this. I don't know if you know, I am a Carolina Panthers fan.
Yes, of course.
And so, believe it or not, when they got rid of Robbie, first of all, when they got rid of Matt Rule, let's just start there. When they got rid of Matt Rule, I was very excited. They sent Robbie Anderson packing. I was very excited. And I wasn't excited that Robbie was going. I was excited he was going to go and possibly have fun. They sent Christian McCaffrey packing, and I was very excited about that because we need a facelift. We need a change. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, look, I love Christian McCaffrey, but him going to San Francisco, I think, is going to do wonders for that team whenever they get all organized. But we needed to rebuild it. I think that's what they're trying to do is just go back down. And that way, when the new coach comes in, he doesn't really have to deal with the old regime, right? Like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey's great, but he might want his own guys. And so I think that's what they were trying to do. And then they go out and beat Tampa Bay today. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, just we can't – look, I say this with all sincerity. I'm actually happy the Panthers won. Like, they showed some heart.
Yeah.
As a fan, you know, it was good. And I like Chuba Hubbard too. Like honestly, I think McCaffrey was holding Chuba Hubbard back. I'm not saying Chuba Hubbard is McCaffrey. I'm saying with the organization, it's like Chuba was a college star. Well, you know, see, that's what I'm saying. I can talk about.
He was a stud in college.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's getting 5 carries a game. Like, what are we doing? Like, it should have been a split, a pretty even, not even, but if McCaffrey's getting 20 touches, Chuba should have gotten 10 a game at least. And so, you know, having the opportunity for him to play a little bit more, I think it's good. So happy to see them fight. You know, the fan in me, hey, I know everybody's going to say, you know, keep tanking so you can continue to get draft picks. Hey, let's keep winning. Like, our division's wide open. We keep winning games. We may finish first. So I don't think we're going to finish first with PJ Walker, but who knows? So I was happy to see them fight today. No matter how good or bad, you know, Tampa Bay is, they showed some real fervor in their winning. So I like what I saw.
But I can't wait till my Ravens lose on Thursday night to Tampa Bay after Tampa lost to Pittsburgh and Carolina. We'll see how that goes.
You guys will not lose. Justin, can I share something with you that I love about Coach Harbaugh? I think he's been listening to me talk about him.
He's been kicking a little more.
Okay, now, for everybody, because me and Blender had this conversation, and he's like, all the numbers, okay, say what you want, take the points. And if you look at the past few weeks, why have they not lost these games? They've been kicking the field goals when they've been available. I'm telling you, like, I don't care what the analytics say. Take the points because you don't know what you're going to need in the fourth quarter. And lo and behold, they win a game by 3 points today. Imagine them going for it on fourth down again instead of letting, you know, Tucker kick a 55-yarder. Just imagine. It could totally change the game. So he's kicked field goals the past few weeks, and lo and behold, Justin keeps winning games. Wow, what a surprise.
Well, hopefully that keeps up. Anyway, I started all this by just wondering how good Pittsburgh is. And because, you know, they beat Tampa Bay, but maybe Tampa's not as good as we think they are. So how good is Pittsburgh? Can they hang in this game on the road? You got a rookie quarterback on the road, Sunday Night Football. Like, how do you see this game playing out?
Well, I do think, in my opinion, Miami's going to play a lot more ball control tonight, in my opinion. In order to keep two out of harm's way, the running game has to get going, and then I think play action has to get going, right? And so the way I think this game goes, and I'm talking about Miami for a reason. I think we see handoffs to Raheem Mostert. I think we see hard play action, maybe some rollouts, so he can get rid of the ball and stay out of harm's way and not have to sit in the pocket and be, you know, a sitting duck, if you will, for all of these defensive linemen that may be chomping at the bit to get a piece of them. So that's how I think this game is going to go. So I'm actually projecting this game to be fairly low scoring, but I also think Tua is going to get the ball out quick. So a lot of Tyreek Hill, a lot of Raheem Mostert. I think that's what we see tonight. And if that's the case, then I don't think Miami is going to put up 30-ish points unless like the defense gets involved too. But I do see them probably putting up somewhere in the mid to low 20s. And then Pittsburgh trying to keep up here. So I think Pittsburgh is behind, let's say, late in the fourth. You know what I mean? And then that's when I think, you know, we see them kind of trying to push the ball down the field and pick up some yards. Other than that, I actually think this game is going to be fairly close. most of the way because I'm not sure they're going to open up the playbook to put Tua in harm's way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I that logic stands to reason, and I think I think either that happens and it's close, competitive, low scoring, or Miami just blitzes them and blows them out. I mean, but again, maybe being a Baltimore fan, I'm like a little anti-Pittsburgh bias here, I suppose. But it's just an interesting angle to take with how this game might play out tonight. So let's dig in then. In terms of captain exposure, then based on what you just told me, are you on somebody like Mostert as captain tonight? Are you going for one of the Miami receivers? What are you looking at?
I think for me, I think it's Hill or Mostert because Hill is going to get the volume, I think, and a lot of passes around the line of scrimmage. And it might, I'm not saying like 1 to 2 yards deep, but 2 to 5 yards. I think Hill is in line for a lot of those type of targets. I think Mostert is in line for a nice workload tonight. And I think he's been getting 14, 15 carries a game anyway. I think one game he was up to 18 or 19. I think we see something like 17, 18 carries tonight. And so I think Mostert could have a big night anyway. Like Pittsburgh hasn't been they're not as bad as they were in terms of giving up a whole lot of yardage on the ground, but they're still giving up a $120. Like I'm more than willing to take a shot with Mostert here. And Mostert is probably a sneaky captain, if you will. He's going to garner some ownership. We've got him at 35% overall, but in the captain, I don't think we see nearly that much. And so I like Mostert in the captain spot tonight. I think it looks like we've got him around 7% ownership in the captain, which is fairly low considering we've got Tyreek at 22.
Yeah, that is fairly low. I think that might be a little even lower than we had it earlier, if I remember correctly. But I like that call, and I think he's clearly been the guy in that Miami backfield. He's gotten 14 plus touches each of the last 3 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, I'm okay with him as well as a potential captain here. I'm fine with the receivers. Tua, if you think they are going to air it out a little bit, but again, I'm all aboard Miami. The Pittsburgh captains, and we can kind of come back and talk about that, but that would be the more contrarian build. And what are you doing with Pickett here? I mean, if you think Pittsburgh's behind late, they might have to throw. What are you doing with the Pittsburgh QB?
Yeah, and I'm for sure going with game script building tonight. Mostert captain, Pickett and the receivers in the flex, which also means I do like the Pittsburgh receivers like a Deontay Johnson or Pickens in the captain as well, and Mostert in the flex, just in case, they just kind of go berserk late. Maybe they don't win the game, but they're airing it out so much to try and score and keep up or to try to score and win late. So, but definitely a whole lot of Pickett. I don't think I'm going Pickett captain tonight for what it's worth. I don't think I'm going to play in the captain, but I'm willing to go Pickett lock button in the flex because I think Pickett is going to be if Pickett does well, you're going to need him tonight. Where I don't know if you'll need to. You may not need Tua, but like if Pickett goes for 18, 20 points, I think you're going to need him because of his price. I mean, he's 9,200. I mean, to put it in context, Tyreek Hill is the most expensive player on the slate, and he's the wideout. Whereas Pickett's 92. So I think he's a lock button for me. And then at that point, it's how much Deontay am I playing? How much Claypool am I playing? How much Pickens am I playing?
Yeah, so if you do a lineup with Pickett in the flex, we can come back and talk about Najee Harris in a little bit. But which of the Pittsburgh receivers would you prioritize first?
Well, if you pull up our handy dandy Gridiron IQ tool, and Steve, you don't have to do this because I have it right in front of me. I think you're going to find something fairly interesting with the Pittsburgh receivers. There hasn't really been a whole lot of drop-off for Deontay with Pickett at quarterback. When you look at it, he's still the leading target getter on this team at 27%. Now, it was even in week 6 at 7, 6, and 7, but Pickett left the game and Mitch Trubisky came in. So I'm kind of going to give that week a pass. But what I'm most interested in here, Deontay's on the field 90+% of the time, and then Pickens and Claypool are like in the mid to high 80s. So I think I'm going to always side with Deontay until they prove me different. And then between Pickens and Claypool, I think I'll split the difference between the two. But if I had to only choose one, I think I'm going Deontay. And at the end of it all, I think he still ends up being the leading target getter. And I'm basing that off of, work with me here, Big Ben, he was the leading target getter. When they started the season, they had Mitch Trubisky, and he was the leading target getter for Mitch. And now we're switching over to Kenny Pickett, who I know him and George Pickens are rookies, but I still think this is Deontay's wide receiver room. So from that aspect, I'm going to side with Deontay until I get some real data that suggests that Pickens is going to be the number one guy.
Yeah, I mean, Deontay Johnson is still going to be their first target. You look at his outside of the Jets game, 12, 10, 11, 13, 7 targets. Obviously, the production has been hit and miss because the offense has been hit or miss. But I think Deontay Johnson is still the number one guy. I think Pickens is the number 2 at this point. In terms of upside, maybe Pickens has a little bit higher of a ceiling, but you're just kind of mixing and matching in GPPs. But I think Deontay Johnson is the guy that you want to target first, particularly if you're only making one lineup. Not a huge ownership differential among these guys, so I would go with Deontay first as well. How about the Miami guys? I mean, Tyreek, clearly the wide receiver 1, projects very well. Waddle is a little bit banged up, but he's also somewhat significantly cheaper. If I put Hill into this lineup, I've only got $49.50 per spot for the final couple spots, which is certainly, easy to do once we get to defenses and kickers and tight ends. So Hill or Waddle for you tonight?
Absolutely Hill. I mean, there's no way. I mean, there's no way I'm playing Waddle over Hill with the amount. And look, Waddle's getting volume too. So that's the thing. Like, it's not like Hill's getting 15 targets and Waddle's getting like 5. Like, Hill picked up 15 targets last week, and Waddle didn't have 15, of course, but he still had 10. Like, that's basically all the offense is going through these two guys in terms of the passing game. But if I'm going to side with one guy, I still think Tyreek Hill has more upside than Waddle on a day-to-day basis. So I'm just going to spend the money and get to Hill.
Yeah, I think I'm landing there as well, especially since that works with this type of lineup build, because you can see I've got $49.50 on average per player. And we can come back and talk about these guys, but if I put the Dolphins D in there, and I can put, Freiermuth in there, or I can put Gesicki in there, or I can put a kicker in there, or I can take the Dolphins defense out and put a tight end in there. Basically any combination of defense, kicker, and tight end will work to round out this lineup where you have Pickett, you have Deontay, you have Tyreek Hill to cover maybe some of that Tua, because this lineup doesn't have Tua. You're still got Hill and you've got Mostert, so you've got a good chunk of the Miami exposure. And in GPP builds, if you think they're going to play it somewhat close to the vest, maybe Tua is not optimal tonight. So, and if Miami plays with a lead as well. So defenses, the 2 kickers, the top 2 tight ends, you got a priority amongst how you would rank those. They're basically all between 3,800 and 5K.
Yeah, I think for me, Freiermuth feels like the right play, because if you're thinking they're going to be behind, like, essentially his targets should pick up some as the game goes along, even if you don't see them early. But it's really splitting hairs with these tight ends. I think you just take a piece of all of them and get them all in your build.
Yeah, I mean, basically you're hunting for a touchdown. Freiermuth's been injured the last couple of weeks. But, he had a 10-target game earlier in the year. He had a 9-target game. He had a 7-target game. He can be a target in the red zone. So I like Freiermuth at 5K. He'd be my priority kind of among the tight ends. I do like Miami's defense as well. I mean, you think Miami controls the game. Pickett, young quarterback, getting, having to throw late. You got the potential for turnovers, pick six, something like that. So I would maybe round out a lineup like this, where you'd have Mostert, Pickett, Deontay, Hill, Miami defense, and Freiermuth. But again, your mileage may vary. Put a kicker in there if you don't want to play the defense. And really the only key piece that you feel like you don't have in this lineup is Tua, but you've got that covered with Hill. And, I just don't think they're going to let him go back there and chuck it 40 times this week. If you wanted to get, Tua in there, then you could play him instead of Hill. And then, it's basically which one would you feel more comfortable fading? Because if you're trying to get Tua and Hill in there, then you're $900 over in this particular build that I have here. Maybe you go from the tight end. Will a kicker fit in here? Oh, $100 over for a kicker. Got to rework something a little bit to make that work. But it's doable. You just got to, it's a little bit tighter if you're trying to get all those key pieces in there. There's probably one of them that you're not going to be able to play. Thoughts on that kind of general build for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the way to go, when you're trying to get these builds in, man. And the other thing too is when you're trying to take down a showdown, you really probably need one piece that's slightly different. And I think tonight for us, I think that's Raheem Mostert at captain. Like I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of Mostert at captain. So that one little tweak could be the difference between splitting it with 25 people and 8 people. You know what I mean? That one little tweak. So I think that's the way to go tonight. I know we're $100 over, but we can kind of fix that and move some things around. I will say if you just like in that build we had Tua.
Yeah, that's why I was over. If I go back to Pickett, I'm not over.
Yeah, but there's another side of the coin too, and this is why I like game script building. If you think Tua has no limitations, you essentially could just run a Dolphins onslaught and then just play cheap Steelers guys in the end. You know what I mean? I do think you could possibly get away with the Dolphins guys and no Tua and still run Pickett. And the reason why is we've seen even last week where the Dolphins didn't necessarily pile up 30 points, but Tyreek Hill had 10 catches for 150 yards and no touchdowns. And so both of these guys pile up the yards, but nobody scores touchdowns, and they still hit it. So you can get away with not having Tua, and maybe having Mostert, Hill, and Waddle, and then still be able to get in Pickett and some of his guys. So it's you can work it whatever way you want. But I am of the mindset I don't want a whole lot of Tua tonight for what it's worth. Like he's kind of the one guy I'm probably staying away from. I think his pieces can get there even if he doesn't.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm okay not playing him if it makes the rest of your lineup work, which in that sample we certainly did. Got about 10 minutes left to lock. I want to make sure we get to some questions if people have them. But two other things. A, I want to look at FanDuel quick. B, I want to show you kind of what a lineup would look like if you wanted to play the Pittsburgh angle of them scoring a lot of points. So say you wanted to play two of their pass catchers with Pickett at captain, throw Mostert in the flex. Maybe we still get Tyreek in there. We got 2,800 for your last spot, so you'd have to find a punt there. If you go Waddle, you've got 4,400 for your last spot, so a kicker would fit in there, and that would work fine if you wanted to do kind of that Pittsburgh passing game domination build. But my two remaining questions: anybody you would consider as a complete punt? I know Cedric Wilson's $200 on DraftKings. Any interest in Najee Harris, the one guy we kind of haven't talked about, or Jaylen Warren if the game turns into a blowout? Basically, your thoughts maybe on the guys we haven't covered too much.
I don't hate Najee because he can get involved in the passing game if it comes down to it. He's just not been good this year, though. It's been.
I just don't think he's that good anymore. I mean,
no. It's not that. I think it's the team. Like I think they're just
sure
out of sync. Like if they can open up some lanes, like he can pop some runs, but I just think the team is just it's just not coming together right now. Like Najee Harris rushing props are sitting in the 40s every week now, Justin, where last year they were in the 70s, pushing 80 every week. So, and I think, I think he was hurt a little bit this season, so it's just not coming together for him. I think Najee, I don't think you fade him, but if I'm running one lineup, I'm probably not playing Najee Harris today.
Yeah, I'm not super interested. Like, I think he's okay, and you probably need some if you're rolling, 100 lineups or something like that, but just not necessary. I'm not huge on the punts. Like Cedric Wilson, I suppose, is okay at $200 if you want to play every single stud, and get those guys all in there. But he's really the only guy that's probably even going to see the field that much, if at all, of the super dirt cheap plays on DraftKings. All right, I'm going to pull up the chat now. We'll see if we've got any questions coming in. We've got about 8 minutes until lock, and I will pull up FanDuel as well. And on our lineup build show earlier, TJ had mentioned, if Tua takes another big hit, maybe it's not the craziest slate to do the thing that everybody laughs at and play some Teddy Bridgewater. Again, I'd probably have to be about 50, 60 lineups deep before I did that, but, no scenario is mega crazy given Tua's circumstances. So the biggest thing that stands out to me on FanDuel is that Najee Harris is $13K and Raheem Mostert is $10,500. Like, there's no reason Mostert should be $2,500 cheaper than Harris on FanDuel. So Mostert is the guy. Again, if you wanted to make it your build a little bit contrarian, you put Mostert in the MVP slot. You can still get basically the same type of build. What do we have? Pickett, Tyreek, Deontay, and I've got 7,500 for my last spot. So that's probably if I wanted to get Freiermuth in there, that was kind of the build I had on DraftKings. Of course, it's $500 over. So maybe this is a lineup where you have to pivot from Deontay to Pickens. Then you got 10-5, and you can get Claypool or somebody in there to round it out. But the cap on FanDuel is a little bit tighter this year than it was in the past. But Mostert, the biggest salary differential on FanDuel. Of course, you only got half-point PPR there as well, so maybe a slight bump down to the wide receivers. But your thoughts on the FanDuel build?
Yeah, FanDuel, I'm still in the Mostert, but of course, because you don't get the salary bump down, like Tyreek Hill is still an animal. Like, he'll still catch enough passes to punish you. And then, and then it's all up to how many yards does he pick up after the catch on all these targets, and does he burn you with a touchdown? So, like, if Tariq goes, 8 catches, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns, like he's captain viable no matter what. So, he's one of my favorite plays tonight. Outside of, once again, most who I really like just because of the situation.
All right, some questions that have come in. Few people asking about the tight ends. I like Freiermuth a little better, just in terms of his receiving ability. Like AO was asking in the YouTube chat, is Gesicki a good captain? I don't think so. You're just not going to see the volume now that they've got Hill and Waddle. If he catches a touchdown, great, but I don't think the ceiling is there for him. Donnie Watson asking who y'all like on the cheap end on DraftKings, looking at Smythe as his low-owned guy in single entry. Like, there isn't a whole lot. I mentioned Cedric Wilson, but I think Smythe is $1,200 on DraftKings. Would you consider any of those punts as options tonight?
Maybe Smythe, but I feel like the punt ops are they're in shambles tonight. Big time shambles.
Yeah, there's not much there. I know we've had the cheap tight ends because of injury, like Dallas had the cheap tight ends last week. Smythe has, 7 targets all season. It's just tough to endorse. I'd probably play Cedric Wilson first and hope. He's the 4th wide receiver, like even Sherfield. And when you're not doing this on FanDuel where there's not enough of a discount, but like Sherfield, I think is still $4.8K on DraftKings, where Wilson's like $200. So You could run Wilson and just hope he's on the field for like 10 routes, and maybe he catches a long one, but it's not safe by any means.
Yeah.
John Jefferson says he's a lone wolf. He has a kicker in his lineup. I don't mind the kickers.
I
can always get behind the kickers.
Oh, I'm always behind the kickers now. You don't have to sell me
put
on
Sanders
kickers.
in this lineup right here. Now you're not the lone wolf anymore, John. Over 1.5 field goals. That's the rule. I think I think they can get there tonight. I think they can. So no issues with the kickers at all. Oh, he says let's go Boswell. That's fine. We'll throw Boswell in there instead. The other type of build that I kind of like is the Miami onslaught build, where you don't necessarily need a ton of exposure to their passing game. Like they get a big lead. Mostert, does a lot of damage. You got the defense in there, maybe forcing some turnovers late. Maybe you can get Tua in there. And maybe your Pittsburgh exposure is like Jalen Warren. You think they get absolutely blitzed. And then I can get Tyreek Hill in there as well. And this lineup even has 3K left over. So and you could put Tua in the MVP slot if you want. They're interchangeable on FanDuel because you don't have the salary multiplier. There's Mostert, and I mentioned Mostert's just too cheap on FanDuel. But you could do this kind of, onslaught build if you think Warren's a little bit too crazy. Go back to Boswell. Maybe all of Pittsburgh's points come from field goals, and they lose 27. Yeah, you could see. I could see this game being like 24-9, and Miami just kind of coasts, and they get a defensive touchdown late, and Boswell kicks 3 field goals. So, and this lineup I have up there right now will almost undoubtedly be duplicated. Don't put this in your GPP builds. Because it's got Tua, Mostert, Hill, Miami D, like anybody and it's zeroed out salary wise. So if this is the optimal lineup, I guess we'll take it. But you're gonna split with 865 of your closest friends.
Yeah.
If you put that one in there,
that's for sure a split.
That's definitely a split if it wins. Though if this is the optimal and I don't have it in there, I'm gonna be a little peeved because I'd rather have it, I guess, if it's going to be optimal, but I just kind of threw it together in about 15 seconds here. We got about a minute left until lock. Anything else that we have missed that you want to pass along?
Nah, I think we're good, man. This feels good. So hopefully everybody is able to hop on the money train and make a few dollars tonight, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.
All right, kudos to that, and hopefully we will see you all there at the top of the leaderboards. And with that, we are at lock here right now. Probably by the time this comes along, John's still rooting for Dallas. They got their quarterback back today in Dak Prescott, and they did defeat Detroit 24-6. The offense was a little bit sloppy, but they got a win. They're 5-2. I'm sure all Dallas fans would take that after their first game loss to Tampa, and then Dak being out for a month to be to 5-2 at this stage of the season. And I tell you, the NFC East has been the laughing stock of the NFL for like the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And now you look, and the Eagles are 6-0, the Giants are 6-1,
Yep.
the Cowboys are 5-2. And the Commanders beat Green Bay today. They're 3-4. They'd be in first place if they were in the NFC South with your Panthers there. So after all those years of 8-8 winning the division or 9-8 winning the division,
not this year.
Not this year in the NFC East. The Eagles are undefeated. The Phillies are going to the World Series. The times are good in Philly right now. Which if you're a Philly fan, I'm sure you're having a great Sunday. So we'll hope to all have a great Sunday with some good lineups here in the Sunday Night Showdown. Dolphins and Steelers. We'll get out of here so y'all can watch the game. Thanks to Will for joining me. I am Justin. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us as well. And we'll be back here tomorrow. New work week, new Monday, and NBA and Monday Night Football content on your way here at RotoGrinders. Be sure to hit the thumbs up on the video if you like it there on YouTube. Check us out, rotogrinders.com, scoresandodds.com for all things sports betting. And we'll be back at you tomorrow with our usual Monday night slate of shows. Have a good evening, everybody.